Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there were three bears who lived together in a house of their own in a wood. There was the great big father bear, and the middle-sized mother bear, and a little wee baby bear. One day, after they had made porridge for their breakfast and poured it into their bowls, they went for a walk in the wood while the porridge was cooling, so that they might not burn their mouths by eating too soon, for they were polite, well-brought-up bears. While they were away, a little girl called Goldilocks, who had been sent on an errand by her mother, passed by the house and looked in at the window. Seeing nobody inside, she lifted the latch, for she was not at all a well-brought-up little girl. The door was not locked because the bears were good bears who did nobody any harm and never suspected that anybody would harm them. So Goldilocks opened the door and went in, and how pleased she was when she saw the porridge on the table. If she had been a well-brought-up little girl, she would have waited till the bears came home, and then perhaps they would have asked her to breakfast. But she was an impudent, rude little girl, so she decided to just help herself. First, she tasted the porridge of the father bear, and that was too hot for her. Next, she tasted the porridge of the mother bear, but that was too cold for her. And then she tasted the porridge of the baby bear, and that was neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. And she liked it so much that she ate it all up, every bit. Then Goldilocks, who was tired after eating, tried to sit in the chair of the great big father bear. But that chair was much too big and much too wide for her. So then she sat down in the middle-sized chair of the mother bear, which was better, but still it was too high. Her feet could not touch the ground. But when she sat down in the little wee chair of the baby bear, well, that was neither too wide nor too high, but just right. So she seated herself in it, and there she sat till the bottom fell out, and crash, the whole chair fell into pieces. Now, being determined to rest, Goldilocks went upstairs where the three bears slept. First, she lay down upon the great big bed of the father bear, but that bed was much too firm. Next, she lay down upon the middle-sized bed of the mother bear, but that was too soft for her. Finally, she lay down upon the little bed of the baby bear, and that was neither too firm nor too soft, but just right. So she covered herself up comfortably and fell fast asleep. Soon the three bears returned home. Careless Goldilocks had left the spoon of the father bear standing in his porridge. "Somebody has been at my porridge," said the father bear in his great, rough, gruff voice. Then the mother bear looked at her porridge and saw the spoon standing in it too. "Somebody has been at my porridge," said the mother bear in her soft, gentle voice. Then the baby bear looked at his, and there was the spoon in the bowl, but the porridge was all gone. "Somebody has been at my porridge and has eaten it all up," said the baby bear in his squeaky baby voice. Upon this, the three bears, seeing that someone had entered their house and eaten baby bear's breakfast, began to look about them. The father bear looked at his big, wide chair and said in his great, rough, gruff voice, "Somebody has been sitting in my chair." The mother bear then spied her own chair and in a gentle voice sighed, "Somebody has been sitting in my chair." And then the baby bear cried out in his squeaky baby voice, "Somebody has been sitting in my chair and it's all broken to pieces." Well, then the three bears rushed upstairs to their bedroom. Now, Goldilocks had tossed Father Bear's pillow out of its place. "Somebody has been lying in my bed," said the father bear in his great, rough, gruff voice. And Goldilocks had rumpled the blanket of the mother bear. "Somebody has been lying in my bed," said the mother bear in her soft, gentle voice. But when the baby bear came to look at his bed, well, there was the blanket in its place, and the pillow was in its place, and upon the pillow, there was Goldilocks' yellow head, which was not in its place, for she had no business there. "Somebody has been lying in my bed, and here she is still," said the baby bear in his squeaky baby voice. Now, Goldilocks had heard in her sleep the great, rough, gruff voice of the father bear, but she was so fast asleep that it was no more to her than the roaring of wind or the rumbling of thunder. And she had heard the soft, gentle voice of the mother bear, but it was only as if she had heard someone speaking in a dream. But when she heard the squeaky baby voice of the baby bear, well, it was so sharp and shrill that it wakened her at once. Up she started, and when she saw the three bears on one side of the bed, she tumbled herself out at the other and ran to the open window. And from that window, naughty, frightened little Goldilocks jumped. And whether she broke a bone in the fall, or ran into the wood and was lost there, or found her way out of the wood and got scolded for being a bad girl, no one can say. But the three bears never saw anything more of her. The end. The Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs. When they were old enough, they were sent out into the world to seek their fortunes. The first little pig was very lazy. He didn't want to work at all, and he built his house out of straw. The second little pig worked a little bit harder, but he was somewhat lazy too, and he built his house out of sticks. They built their houses very quickly, and then they sang and danced and played together the rest of the day. The third little pig worked hard all day and built his house with bricks. It was a sturdy house, complete with a fine fireplace and a chimney. A big bad wolf saw the 2 little pigs while they sang and danced and played. The wolf thought, what juicy, tender meals they will make. He chased the 2 pigs, and they ran and hid in their houses. The big bad wolf went to the first house, knocked on the door and said, little pig, let me come in. No, not by the hairs on my chinny chin chin, replied the pig. Then the wolf bared his teeth and said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in. The wolf opened his jaws very wide and bit down as hard as he could. But the first little pig escaped and ran away to hide with the second little pig. The wolf chased the little pig down the lane and came upon the second house made of sticks. He could smell the pigs inside and his mouth began to water. So he knocked on the door and said, little pig, let me come in. No, not by the hairs of our chinny chin chin, replied the pigs. So the wolf bared his teeth and said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in. The wolf was greedy and he tried to catch both pigs at once, but he was too greedy and caught neither. His big jaws clamped down on nothing but air, and the two little pigs scrambled away as fast as their little hooves would carry them. The wolf chased them down the lane and he almost caught them. But they made it to the brick house and slammed the door closed before the wolf could catch them. The three little pigs were very frightened. They knew the wolf wanted to eat them. And that was very, very true. The wolf hadn't eaten all day, and he had worked up a large appetite, chasing the pigs around, and now he could smell all three of them inside. And as he imagined what a lovely feast they would make, he knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me come in. No, not by the hairs on our chinny chin chin, replied the pigs. So the wolf showed his teeth and said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he huffed and he puffed. He huffed and he huffed and he puffed and he puffed, but he could not blow the house down. At last, he was so out of breath that he couldn't huff and he couldn't puff anymore. The brick house stood firm. The wolf danced about with rage, hungrier than ever. He needed to find another way in. The wolf spied the chimney atop the brick house and began climbing to the roof. Quick, said the third little pig. The three little pigs got the biggest pot they had, filled it with water, and put it on the fireplace to boil. And all the time, they could hear the sound of the wolf climbing, then walking on the roof. The little pigs held their breath. Nearer and nearer he came until, as the wolf was coming down the chimney, splash! The wolf landed right into the pot of boiling hot water. And that was the end of the big bad wolf. The two little pigs now felt sorry for having been so lazy. They too built their houses with bricks, and the 3 little pigs lived happily ever after. The end. This is the house that Jack built. This is the house that Jack built. This is the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the cat that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the dog that worried the cat that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the cow with his crumpled horn that tossed the dog that worried the cat that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the maiden, all forlorn, that milked the cow with the crumpled horn, that tossed the dog that worried the cat, that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the man all tattered and torn, that kissed the maiden, all forlorn, that milked the cow with a crumpled horn, that tossed the dog that worried the cat, that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the priest, all shaven and shorn, that married the man, all tattered and torn, that kissed the maiden, all forlorn, that milked the cow with a crumpled horn, that tossed the dog that worried the cat, that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the rooster that crowed in the morn, that woke the priest, all shaven and shorn, that married the man, all tattered and torn, that kissed the maiden, all forlorn, that milked the cow with a crumpled horn, that tossed the dog that worried the cat, that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the farmer sowing his corn, that kept the rooster that crowed in the morn, that woke the priest all shaven and shorn, that married the man all tattered and torn, that kissed the maiden all forlorn, that milked the cow with the crumpled horn, that tossed the dog that worried the cat, that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. This is the horse and the hound and the horn that belonged to the farmer that sowed his corn, that kept the rooster that crowed in the morn, that woke the priest all shaven and shorn, that married the man all tattered and torn, that kissed the maiden all forlorn, that milked the cow with the crumpled horn, that tossed the dog that worried the cat, that chased the rat that ate the cheese that lay in the house that Jack built. The Frog Prince. Once upon a time, a young princess went into a wood to play beside a pond of cool water. She had a golden ball in her hand, which was her favorite toy, and she played, tossing the ball into the air and catching it again as it fell. After a time, she threw it up so high that the ball bounced away and fell into the pond. The princess looked into the water after her ball, but it was very deep, so deep that she could not see the bottom of it. Losing her precious ball made the princess very sad, and she began to cry and cry. Pretty soon, a frog poked its head out of the water and said, "Princess, what's wrong? Why do you cry and cry?" The princess looked up, and to her surprise, she saw a frog talking to her from the water. "My ball, my beautiful golden ball has fallen into this pond," cried the princess. "Alas! If I could only get my ball again, I would give all my fine clothes and jewels and everything that I have in the world." The frog said, "I want not your jewels or fine clothes, but if you will love me and let me live with you, eat from your plate and sleep upon your bed, I will bring you your ball again." What nonsense, thought the princess. This nasty little frog is talking. Nothing will probably happen. But just in case it can actually find my ball, so she said to the frog, "Well, if you bring me my ball, I promise to do everything you ask." The frog dived deep under the water, and after a little while, he came up again with the ball in his mouth and threw it on the ground. Well, as soon as the young princess saw her ball, she ran to pick it up and was so happy to have it in her hand again that she forgot about the frog and ran home as fast as she could. The frog called after her, "Stay, princess! Take me with you as you promised." But she did not stop to hear a word. The next day, as the princess sat down to dinner, she heard a strange noise coming up the marble staircase. Plop, plop, plop. Then something knocked gently at the door and said, "Oh, dearest young princess, hear my call. Remember I found you your golden ball. Now remember as well your promise true to take me along and live with you." The princess ran to the door and opened it, and there was the frog whom she had quite forgotten. Very frightened, she shut the door as fast as she could and came back to her seat. Her father, the king, asked her what had frightened her. "There is a nasty frog at the door who lifted my ball out of the pond yesterday. I promised it that it could live with me here just to get my ball. I didn't think it could, but now it is at the door and wants to come in." The king said to the young princess, "As you have made a promise, you must keep it. So go and let him in." Reluctantly, the princess opened the door, and the frog hopped up to the table. The frog said to the princess, "Please lift me onto a chair to sit next to you." Scowling, she lifted him onto the chair next to her. Then the frog said, "Put your plate closer to me that I may eat out of it." This she did with a sigh. And when he had eaten as much as he could, he said, "Now I am tired. Carry me upstairs so that I may rest in your bed." The princess took the frog up in her hand and put him on a pillow on her bed, where he slept all night long. As soon as it was light, he jumped up and hopped downstairs and left the palace. "Oh, thank goodness," said the princess. "He is gone. I am finally rid of the frog." But she was mistaken. For when night came again, she heard the same tapping at the door, and when she opened it, there was the frog. Remembering her promise, the young princess allowed the frog to sleep upon her pillow. Then, like before, in the morning, the frog hopped off and out of the palace. On the third night, the frog returned, and again he settled himself down on the princess's pillow. But when the princess awoke on the following morning, she was astonished to see, instead of the frog, a handsome prince gazing on her with the most beautiful eyes that ever were seen, standing beside her bed. The prince told her that he had been enchanted by an evil fairy who had changed him into a frog. He was cursed to remain a frog until a princess should take him out of the pond and let him sleep upon her bed for 3 nights. "You," said the prince, "have broken this cruel charm, and I am free. I have nothing to wish for now but that you, who has saved me, should go with me now into my father's kingdom, where I may marry you and love you as long as I live." The young princess was shocked at first, but you may be sure she finally said yes. Then all set out, full of joy for the prince's kingdom, where they lived happily a great many years. The end. The Elves and the Shoemaker. A shoemaker, through no fault of his own, had become so poor that he only had enough leather to make just 1 pair of shoes. One evening, he cut the leather out to start making shoes, but being tired, he went to bed, intending to finish them the next morning. He lay in bed, prayed to God for help, and fell asleep. The next morning, he was about to return to his work when he found the shoes on his workbench completely finished. Amazed, he did not know what to say. He picked up the shoes and looked at them closely. They were so well made that not a single stitch was out of place. A masterpiece! A customer soon came by, and he liked the shoes so much that he paid more than the usual price for them. The shoemaker now had enough money to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That evening, he cut them out, planning to continue his work the next morning with good cheer. But he did not need to do so, because when he got up, they were already finished. Customers soon bought them, paying him enough that he now could buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. Early the next morning, he found the 4 pairs of shoes finished. And so it continued. Whatever he cut out in the evening was always finished the following morning. He continued to sell more and more shoes, and in time, the shoemaker became a rich man. One evening, shortly before Christmas, just before going to bed, the shoemaker said to his wife, "Why don't we stay up tonight and see who is giving us this helping hand?" His wife agreed to this and lit a candle. Then they hid themselves behind some clothes that were hanging in the corner of the room. At midnight, 2 cute little elves appeared. Sitting down at the workbench, they picked up the leather pieces and worked so unbelievably quickly and nimbly that the amazed shoemaker could not take his eyes off of them. They did not stop until they had finished everything. They placed the completed shoes on the workbench, then quickly ran away. The next morning, the wife said, "The little elves have made us rich. We must show them our thanks. And they are running around with nothing but rags. They must be freezing. Do you know what? I want to sew some shirts and jackets and little vests and pants for them and knit each a pair of stockings. And you could make a pair of little shoes for each of them as well." The husband said, "What a wonderful idea." And so they worked hard, sewing and knitting and cobbling shoes all day. That night, instead of setting out cut leather, they placed on the workbench all the presents they had made for the elves. Then they hid themselves again to see what their little helpers would do. At midnight, the elves dashed into the room, eager to start work. When they saw the little clothes instead of the cut-out leather, they at first looked confused and then delighted. They quickly put them on, and stroking their beautiful new clothes, they sang, "Now that we look so fancy and fine, it's time to leave this cobbling behind." They hopped and danced about, jumping over chairs and benches. Finally, they danced out of the house. The elves never came back, but the shoemaker prospered, and he and his wife lived happily ever after. The end. Jack, be nimble. Jack, be nimble. Jack, be quick. Jack, jump over the candlestick. 끝이에요. 그때 당시에는 그냥 일반적으로 그 아이, the boy 이런 것보다 그냥 이름을 붙이는 경향이 있더라고요. 남자들은 대부분 잭이고요. 그리고 여자는 Mary. 그리고 다음 불러드릴 동요는 Jack and Jill. 네, Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came running after. Up Jack got, and home did trot as fast as he could caper. to old Dame Dob, who patched his knob with vinegar and brown paper. 제가 이 스토리를 고른 이유는요, 이 많은 라임들이 굉장히 말이 안 돼요. 내용적으로는 너무 엉뚱하게 말이 안 되는, 근데 그게 말이 안 될수록 아이들한테는 더 재밌고 뭐야? 말도 안 돼. 약간 이런 반응으로 좀 많이 즐기기도 했고요. 재밌고 라이밍이 되니까 다 된 거예요. 자, 이제 무슨 흐름인지 잘 아실 것 같죠? 예. 계속 할게요. It's raining, it's pouring. 정말 비가 많이 올 때 많이 하던 동요. It's raining, it's pouring. The old man is snoring. He got into bed and bumped his head and couldn't get up in the morning. 너무 쑥스러워요. 제가 어렸을 때 진짜 많이 불렀던 거거든요. 우리나라에서도 조금 아실 수도 있어요. 팔, 다리, 얼굴 있는 계란. 벽 위에 올라갔다가 넘어진 그런 이야기. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. 이 다음 거는 사진 그림과 같이 보시면 더욱더 너무너무 좋을 겁니다. 이거는 너무 그냥 센스 없는, 말이 안 되는 그냥 웃긴 자그만한 동요예요. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. 제가 개인적으로 좋아하는, 네, 소가 하늘 쪽에 쫙 이렇게 점핑을 해서 이제 달을 넘었다고요? 말이 안 되죠? 하지만 재밌어요. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread. She whipped them all round and sent them to bed. 이 다음 것도 어떤 소녀가 죽을 먹으려고 어디 앉았다가 개미가 딱 와가지고 무서워서 다 때려치고 도망간 내용 끝. Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. 자, 이렇게 짧게 동요들을 들려드렸는데요. 마지막으로 조금 긴, 이거는 원래 시였는데 나중에 유명한 동요가 된 스토리예요. 많이 아실 거예요. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are. 이것이 바로 유명한 동요예요. 많이 들어보셨을 거예요. 근데 하지만 어떠한 조금 더 긴 시의 첫 번째 벌스만 가지고 동요 만든 거고요. 오늘 머더굿의 마지막 유명한 너스리 라임의 피날리로 Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, 그 유명한 동요의 원작인 시를 들려드릴게요. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. When the blazing sun is gone, when he nothing shines upon, then you show your little light, twinkle, twinkle, all the night. Then the traveler in the dark thanks you for your tiny spark. How he could not see which way to go if you did not twinkle so. In the dark blue sky you keep, often through my curtains peep, for you never shut your eye till the sun is in the sky. As your bright and tiny spark lights the traveler in the dark, though I know not what you are. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a kind man who remarried after his first wife had passed away. Sadly, the woman he chose was proud, selfish, and unkind. She had 2 daughters who were just like her, rude and mean. The man also had a daughter from his first marriage. She was gentle, patient, and kind, just like her mother had been. Everyone who knew her could just see her goodness. But the new stepmother was jealous of the girl. She could not bear to see her kindness because it made her own daughters look even worse. So she gave the poor girl all the hardest jobs in the house. She had to scrub the floors, wash the dishes, and clean the rooms. She even had to sleep in a tiny attic on an old straw mattress, while her stepsisters enjoyed big, soft beds, lovely carpets, shining mirrors. After finishing her work, she would rest by the fireplace, her clothes covered in ashes or cinders. That is why they began to call her Cinderella. Even though she wore rags, Cinderella was still far more beautiful than her stepsisters, who had fine dresses and jewels. One day, an exciting message arrived. The king's son was holding a grand ball, and he had invited all the young ladies of the land, hoping to choose a bride. Of course, the stepsisters were thrilled. For days, they talked only about what dresses to wear and how their hair should be styled. Cinderella had to help them prepare. She ironed their clothes, polished their shoes, and even gave them fashion advice. They laughed at her and teased her. "Would you like to go to the ball too, Cinderella?" they sneered. "Surely everyone will get a good laugh to see a girl dressed in ashes." Cinderella stayed quiet and did her best to help them, but in her heart, she really wanted to go as well. When the night of the ball arrived, she watched sadly as her stepsisters left the house in their fine clothes. Alone, she began to cry. At that moment, a magical fairy godmother appeared. "Why are you crying, my child?" she asked gently. I wish I could go to the ball," Cinderella whispered. The fairy godmother smiled. "And so you shall. But you must promise to be good and kind, as you always are." The fairy godmother went to work. She asked Cinderella to bring her a pumpkin from the garden. With a wave of her wand, she turned it into a shining golden coach. She changed 6 mice into horses, a rat into a coachman, and 6 lizards into footmen. Finally, with another touch of her wand, Cinderella's rags became a dazzling gown of gold and silver. On her feet sparkled a pair of delicate glass slippers, the most beautiful shoes in the world. "Go to the ball and enjoy yourself," said her fairy godmother. "But remember this, you must leave before midnight. When the clock strikes 12, the magic will wear off and everything will change back." Cinderella promised, and with joy in her heart, she climbed into the carriage and set off. When Cinderella entered the palace, a great silence fell over the entire hall. The dancers stopped. The musicians no longer played, for everyone was astonished at the sheer beauty of this new and mysterious guest. The prince himself hurried to greet her. He asked her to dance, and he could not take her eyes off her all evening. Cinderella danced gracefully, spoke kindly to everyone, and even shared treats with her own stepsisters, who never guessed the mysterious princess was their own sister. But suddenly, the clock began to strike 12. Remembering her promise, Cinderella rushed out of the palace. The prince was chasing after her, begging her to stay. As she ran down the palace steps, one of her glass slippers fell off her foot. It was almost midnight. No time to fetch the slipper. She had to leave it behind. The prince picked it up carefully. He knew at once that he had fallen in love, and he vowed to find the young lady who would fit the slipper. The next day, the prince sent messengers throughout the land with the glass slipper. Every young woman was asked to try it on, but it was too small for everyone. Finally, they arrived at Cinderella's house. The stepsisters tried with all their might to force their big feet into the slipper. One of the sisters tried so hard, her foot began to bleed. Cinderella, who had been looking on from the corner of the room, stepped out. "Let me see," she cried out, "if it will not fit me." Her sisters burst out laughing and started teasing Cinderella cruelly. But the royal servant had his orders. Every woman was to try on the glass slipper, no exceptions. The slipper, of course, fit her perfectly. Then Cinderella pulled out the other slipper from her pocket and put it on. At that moment, her fairy godmother appeared once more and transformed her clothes into a gown even more magnificent than before. The stepsisters were shocked. They fell at her feet and begged her forgiveness for the way they had treated her. Cinderella lifted them up and said kindly, "I forgive you with all my heart. Let us live in peace as a family." Soon afterward, Cinderella was taken to the palace. The prince saw her again, more beautiful than ever, and he knew she was the one he wished to marry. Their wedding was celebrated with joy and music. Cinderella, as kind as she was beautiful, did not forget her sisters. She found good husbands for them too, so that they could all live happier lives. And so, they lived happily ever after. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, a princess was born in a kingdom far away. The queen had long wished for a daughter with skin like snow, lips and cheeks red as roses, and hair black as ebony. Her wish had come true, and she named the princess Snow White. Sadly, the queen passed away not long after Snow White was born. The king eventually remarried. The new queen was beautiful, but proud and vain, and she could not bear for anyone else to be more beautiful than her. She secretly practiced magic arts and even owned a magic mirror. She would often stand before her magic mirror, admiring herself, and would say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is fairest of us all?" The mirror would always answer, "You, Queen, are the fairest of them all." This pleased the Queen very much, for magic made the mirror always tell the truth. As Snow White grew older, she began to bloom into her beauty. She was as beautiful as day, and pretty soon, even more beautiful than the Queen herself. One day, the Queen went to the mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is fairest of us all?" "Queen, you are full fair, this is true, but Snow White fairer is than you." This gave the Queen a great shock, and her heart filled with jealousy and hatred for the princess. Her envy and pride grew like weeds, taking over the Queen's whole heart, and she could not rest until she was rid of Snow White. She ordered a huntsman to take Snow White out into the woods and put her to death. "Bring me her heart," she ordered, "to prove the deed is done." The huntsman took Snow White into the wood, but when he drew his knife, Snow White began to weep. "Oh, dear huntsman, do not take my life. I will go away into the wild wood and never come home again." The huntsman had no wish to carry out this awful deed, and he took pity on her and set her free. He slayed a passing wild boar and brought the boar's heart to the Queen instead. Snow White ran through the darkening wood, frightened and alone. She ran as long as her feet would carry her, and finally she came upon a little house deep in the wood. The door was unlocked, so she went inside for shelter. Everything in the house was small, as if built for children. A little table stood, set out with 7 little place settings. By the wall stood 7 little beds, neatly made. Nobody was home, and she was so tired. Snow White lay across the beds and soon fell fast asleep. Late in the night, the masters of the house came home. They were 7 dwarfs who worked hard all day digging deep in the mountains. Imagine their surprise to find a girl sleeping in their home. When she awoke, she told the dwarfs her sad story. They invited her to live with them and be safe. Snow White kept house for the dwarfs, who went out to the mines early every morning, coming back home late at night. They wanted Snow White to be careful about the Queen finding her, as she was left alone all day. "Let no one in the house," the good little dwarfs would say before they left to dig. Life was peaceful until one day the Queen, who believed all this time Snow White had been rid of, felt like asking her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is fairest of us all?" The mirror answered, "Queen, you are a beauty rare, but Snow White, living in the glen with 7 little men, is 1,000 times more fair." The Queen became enraged when she learned Snow White was still alive. Every waking thought of making an end of Snow White consumed the Queen's days, for her envy left her no rest. the huntsman had deceived her. So she decided to take the matter into her own hands. Using her dark magic, the queen created a poisonous apple, brightly gleaming red and looking absolutely delicious in appearance, yet causing death to anyone who ate even a bite of it. The queen disguised herself as an old peasant woman and crossed the mountain ranges to where the dwarfs lived. When she knocked on the door, Snow White poked her head out the window, proclaiming, "Sorry, but I can't let anyone in. The dwarfs warned me not to." "All right," said the old woman. "My apples are so delicious I can sell them anywhere. But I don't mind giving you one as a gift, so you can see for yourself. They are the most delicious apples in the land." The old woman took out a normal apple from her basket and took a bite, making loud noises as she did, like, oh, so juicy, yum. Then she pulled out the poisonous apple towards Snow White. The redness of the apple's skin glinting in the sunlight. Snow White licked her lips at the sight of the beautiful apple. And since the old woman was also eating apples, she decided it would be all right to take one. The old woman tossed her the poisonous apple. Snow White's eyes gleamed as she held the apple in her two hands and took a very big bite. As soon as she started to chew, however, the young princess fell to the ground as if dead. The queen cackled with joy and fled back to the castle. When the dwarfs came home that evening, they found Snow White lying on the ground. No breath was coming out of her mouth. They tried and tried to wake her up, but nothing worked. "She is dead!" the dwarfs cried out, heartbroken. Though dead, her cheeks still bloomed, and Snow White was still so beautiful. The dwarfs decided they could not bear to bury her in the ground. So they built a coffin made of glass and laid her in it, and wrote on it in golden letters her name and that she was a king's daughter. They set the coffin up upon a mountain, and the dwarfs took turns keeping watch. For a long while, Snow White lay in the coffin and never changed, but looked as if she were asleep, for she remained white like snow, her cheeks red as roses, and her hair stayed as black as ebony. One day, a young prince came riding through the mountains and discovered the glass coffin in which Snow White lay. Her beauty astonished the prince, and he wondered at how such beauty could come to such tragedy. He longed to bring her coffin back to his kingdom, but the dwarfs were very protective of Snow White and would not let him take her. The prince begged the dwarfs, "Though she is not living, her beauty deserves a royal setting, and I promise to honor and cherish her all my life if you will let me have her." The dwarfs refused. The prince offered them riches beyond their imagination, royal titles, anything they asked for, but the dwarfs still said no. The prince came back day after day to look upon the beautiful princess, and day after day continued to beg the dwarfs for permission to have her. Finally, the dwarfs could see that the prince's heart was pure and full of love for the princess, and taking pity on him, they finally agreed to let the prince take Snow White back to his kingdom. The prince and the stout dwarfs lifted the coffin onto their shoulders. And as they made their way down the mountainside, somebody stumbled, causing the coffin to jolt. The coffin shook so sharply that suddenly the piece of poisoned apple flew out of Snow White's mouth. It had only been chewed, but had not been swallowed. Snow White's eyes slowly fluttered open. Alarmed, the prince and the dwarfs set the coffin gently on the ground. Snow White threw open the cover of the coffin and sat up blinking. "Oh dear, where am I?" exclaimed Snow White. "You are near me," cried the prince, "where you shall stay safe and protected if you will have me." And after a lot of explaining and a lot of hugging and joyful tears from the dwarfs, Snow White returned with the prince to his kingdom, where they lived happily ever after. The end.